Right? Did you get that, Steve?
I have that the family was First Nation.
Okay. Yeah. So
because of a later interview, and I'll get into that later. So
she breaks out towards the river, and then she leaves. Now you got to remember, family, 1941, ain't no cell phones, and even if there was phones, they ain't having one, right? So Georgie comes home later on in the day. Wife and kids are gone. Something has ripped the door off of the root cellar. He sees this barrel smashed and things have eaten and taken. And to his credit, man, he handles this a lot better than I would have, Steve. He determines that something wasn't right, something was wrong, something's in danger. Kids aren't there. But he starts tracking them, right? So like he said,
he notices too that there are large humanoid footprints all around too. So he, like you said,
that's a great point.
Clearly something's
up, man. He sees these large 13, 15 inch, massive footprints that had toes on it, and his family's gone. So he tracks his wife's and children's, trail out of there to the river, see that they made a right towards the river, and he deduced at that point they're probably heading towards the village, and he headed down towards the village. Everything was safe, everything was good. He hooked up with them, and then his wife goes on to tell him that story, right? So Steve, have I left anything out yet?
No, I don't think so. Nothing that I saw.
Yeah. So that happened, and I thought that was pretty amazing detail on that. So he collects his wife and his kids, and again, these are different times back then, Enigmites. I'm thinking that we can build a shack somewhere else. I'm just saying, we're good in this village here. These are our people, but nope, Georgie's like, we're going back. I was like, okay. Right, Steve?
Yep. Yeah. Why not?
Why not, man? Why not? This happens all the time around here, I guess.
Yeah.
But
what a day. Let's head on back.
But he does something I think is pretty interesting, right? According to the details that I came across, is that he actually convinced a few of the village elders to go with him back there. Something was gone, and they did. Back then, I said, man, the communities back then were a lot more tight knit. They didn't know what was going on, but they went up there in numbers, and that's what they did. They went up there to camp it out. Hold on. About to get rich. That's what that means. So in the South. But anyway, so they go back. People go with him. They set up shop, and this thing does not disappoint. It came back again from what I could tell, at least 7 to 10 days. It came back again, Steve.
I heard at least a week that it kept returning. Yep.
It kept returning at night, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. It showed itself during the day, and the first time around, but came back at night the other times. And again, I'm going to pause it right here. Enigmites, notice they haven't called this thing a Bigfoot or a Wampapamba or whatever they would call it in the First Nation. They haven't called it anything on that, right? But it's funny to me that the Bigfoot, like we talk about cryptids on this channel, and one of the determinations that we try to do is that we rule out things along the way. At a baseline, we always say on the channel, something happened. Now we're going to talk about what that possibly could be, but something happened, right? So this thing, in my opinion, is showing a higher level than normal intelligence of a bear, because a grizzly bear knows no chill. They know that they just don't fear anything, right? So whether the mom was home with the kids or the dad home, it's ruled by its gut. It would have just came down there back and forth, right? Agreed, Steve? Would you say this, based on what we've done, that this is definitely like we did in Portlock? This wasn't a bear, right?
No. Yeah. It wasn't a bear, and even without that, the footprints. Yeah. They were not bear prints.
Yeah, exactly.
They were humanoid, sure. So it was definitely not a bear.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bear. Second thing I'll rule out is 1941, 100% they had some types of wolves up there. This was not a pack of wolves. Wolves aren't letting the kids walk away, right? And again, that's not going to hairn.
They're not breaking down doors and smashing barrels either.
Yeah, for sure. And so they're done. Third thing I'll rule on this is that it wasn't a mountain lion. Mountain lions are massive, 400 to 600 pounds for sure. They are intelligent. They will stalk you and look at you. But again, like my boy just said over here, It's not ripping the door off and flinging a 50-gallon pound of, salted Merkel or whatever they were eating there, man. And it's definitely, if you've never seen a mountain lion track, it's going to be as big as your hand, but it's going to be the biggest cat paw print you would probably see in the North America. And this guy could track his wife to the river. They're going to know it's not a mountain lion, right? So, so those things were out. Now, here's where, again, I think the story's fascinating. He stuck it out for a week, 7 days. Must have been a nerve-wracking event. But he ended up, eventually, Steve, having enough of the encounter on that. And they left, right?
Yep.
And so it doesn't really say where they went. Oh, it did. It said they just moved farther south towards the village and reestablished their homestead, is what I came across. So, did Steve as well?
I didn't see where they went to. I just heard that they left, and that was it. They left it behind them.
They never went back. So, but this is one thing that they, so real quick, I'm going to go and tell you that this is one things that they did that hits a check mark for me.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.